The Seattle Mariners wrapped up the month of June, continuing to play some bad baseball against the Minnesota Twins, where they dropped the series 2-1. Joe and I are going to break down this series quickly because we don't really want to talk about it. And then we're going to talk about the injuries to this team to Mitch Garver, possibly Luke Raley, maybe, as well as is there any hope for this offense moving forward, even if the Mariners go out there and make some trades. We're going to break down how bad this offense has been historically. And then we're going to wrap it all up by talking about the Baltimore Orioles series. One of the best teams in baseball, Joe. Gunnar Henderson just announced he's going to be in the home run derby. They're coming to Seattle. We are going to get to watch the Orioles take it to the Mariners over the next couple of days, over the holiday weekend. Week. Thank you guys so much for watching. The big one. Episode 100 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav Network. The Joe Lacey episode of the Hit It Here podcast. This episode is dedicated to Joe because you know what? We did it, man. We made it to 100. We made it to triple digits. How are you?
I could be better with a more competent Mariners baseball team, but happy to be here on episode 100 with you, Colton. Wouldn't have done it without you. All right, you're the one who started it, not me. All right, I'm not gonna sit here and take credit.
Not Hermione.
Not me. Not Hermione. Ew. And if you would have thought that a Harry Potter quote would lead into a Bet Online ad, those odds are like plus like 10 to 20,000. All right. Nobody places that bet, but you might have with Bet Online. Thank you to Bet Online for being a sponsor for the Hit It Here podcast. Bet Online is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. From baseball, golf, soccer, and even all the top fights in UFC, MMA, and boxing. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played, Bet Online has you covered. And when the game's over, head on over to the online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of the over 150 slots games to play. Head to the website today to get in on the action and use promo code Bleav. That's BLEAV for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet Online. The game starts here. Colton, it's a good thing the Mariners played better baseball at the beginning of June because they really stunk it up the second half of this month. Starting the first game against the Twins, we felt good winning a game. We won a game. Gives us a chance to not lose the series after the first game, regardless. It wasn't a pretty game. It was honestly pretty horrendous for a lot of it. But a win is a win. A dinky little walk-off by Cal. Thank you, Mr. Sands, for throwing the ball away, trying to do the quickest turn and fire you've ever seen from a pitcher coming off the mound. The little dribbler worked. Correa got a big one. A big homer in the 6th inning. Give the Twins a 2-1 lead. The Mariners claw one back in the 8th. It's chaos ball in game 1, ultimately.
This whole series was weird.
That is true. It did not... did we really play baseball? Would you consider the series playing baseball? Again, the final scoreline, 3-2. Gilbert pitched well. 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned, 3 Ks. Bailey Ober on the opposite side there, 9 Ks. The slider breaking ball at the top of the zone on the outside corner to batters to lead off an at-bat was definitely changing up the way that they're approaching. And it just could not figure him out. Struck out 9. But they do get to Griffin Jax, something that Goldsmith was talking about on the broadcast. It's like, hey, Jax is a great reliever, one of the best non-9-inning guys. But the Mariners have, scratched a run off of him several times. I think every appearance since 2022 or 2023, they've gotten a run off him, and that's what they did again. It wasn't earned, but still, it was a blown save by Griffin Jax, and eventually the Mariners do come away with a win here, Colton. Aside from the chaos ball, there's really not a lot going on in this game, though.
No, I mean, obviously the highlight is shirtless Cal, or unbuttoned Cal, saying, oh, he's nice when the Astros lose. Since he said that, the Mariners are 0-2 and the Astros are 2-0.
Yeah, we're really hearing it in the Twitter comments, by the way.
Yeah, we are, but you know what? It is still always nice when the Astros. It's true. It's great. Big fan. Whether the Mariners are doing well or not, love it when the Astros lose. Heck the Astros, dude.
Heck the
Game 2.
Astros.
Game 2 sucked.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. Mariners lose game 2, 5-1. Minnesota 10 hits. Seattle had 6. How many times did the Mariners strike out in this game? Let's see here.
15.
11. 15 times, Joseph. It continues. The strikeouts continue for this baseball team. Cal Raleigh had a hit in this game. JP had a hit. Luke Raley had a hit. I mean, the only guy who's been even worth anything at the plate lately has been Luke Raley.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Miller didn't have his best stuff, only went 5 innings, gave up 2 earned, struck out 6, walked 1. But obviously, the big blow came against Trent Thornton. Not that it would have mattered. You still would have lost the game 2-1. But Trent Thornton comes in, gives up 3 earned runs on 3 hits, 1 strikeout. And that was kind of it the rest of the way. I mean, there's really not much doing for the Mariners here. I'm not going to lie. I didn't watch much of this game. So
I watched the
I don't have
first
much to
little
say.
bit, and then I didn't see the second half. I was like, oh yeah, we got Pablo Lopez at 60 pitches through 3. That's kind of when I stopped, because whatever. And come to find out, he threw 3 more innings. The Mariners, I guess, gave him a really easy 4th and 5th. Mitch Haniger's corpse hit a home run in this game. It seems like whenever we're ready to like move on or be like, okay, these guys, like whatever, they somehow find some life. Haniger with the
He's
home
been
run,
good.
and it's fine. Like, I'm not mad at it. It is kind of a confusing situation when we're like, okay, we need to move on from these guys, and then a big hit happens. That kind of happened, Colton, in Game 3. Jorge Polanco. I mean, he had a double earlier in this series. Had a big hit in Game 3. Drove in the winning run, I believe, or
Tying run.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Tying run.
Wait a second.
I was like, wait. Winning run. That didn't happen once in this game. Yeah, it was a big hit off the wall. Huge for him. Just another like
made a
moment.
nice play defensively too.
Yeah, and it's like there's definitely conversation like, why is Ryan Bliss not playing? DFA Jorge Polanco, blah, like, and then moments like this, it's like, okay, can he sustain this? Let's hope so. Wasn't enough to push the Mariners over the edge here. 5-3, they lose to the Twins. It's just one swing of the bat is all that mattered. Stanek, 10 scoreless outings in a row. Finally, that streak is broken by Trevor Larnach, of all players. Hits a 2-run home run out there to right center field, and when you're that late in the game, you got Duran coming up, you're pretty much toast.
That's toast. Yeah.
That's just like, it's GG at that point. Mariners put together 9 hits in this game, albeit on some chaos stuff, like the Dylan Moore slide at home. Oh my, I screamed when he hesitated. About 3/4 way down the line, he hesitated. I understand that he was safe. But when he like did a little like, oh, bro, just run through. If you run through, there's no question you're safe. Yes, He was safe regardless. But like, I was just, ugh. And then, of course, the big story coming out of this one was Luis Castillo's 3-pitch strikeout. I understand. Don't swing the bat. You don't want him to get hurt. You don't want him to bunt because you don't want him to get hurt.
He should have bunted.
I don't know if I'm honestly fine with him just taking a healthy cut once. Just take a healthy cut. You're getting 92 down the middle. I doubt you're gonna get hurt swinging the bat one time. And if you hit a little dribbler somewhere, well. So be it. If you don't make contact, so be it.
Yeah.
It just seemed like that at bat encapsulates how the last like 4 series have gone. Is they go up there limp. It feels like it does not feel like there is any sort of competitive edge. It's felt like in the last 3 or 4 series. Not to say that I need the pitcher, Luis Castillo, who hasn't swung a bat in 3-4 years to like go do something. No, that's not what I'm saying. But it's almost like the principle behind, okay, yeah, Garver, your catcher, has now been removed. You moved your DH to the catching spot because of that wrist contusion that we found out post or in the middle of the game. That's what happened to Garver. Good news, it's not broken or anything crazy. A wrist contusion, it can take you out for a little bit, but it's not the worst, I would say, for Garver. But the fact that Castillo just stood up there with the bat on his shoulders for 3 pitches and walked back, like, I don't know. I wanted more. And I understand why people like the Shannon Drayers, the Ryan Divishes are like, guys, it was never going to happen. And that's why they're in the positions that they are and we aren't.
Right.
But
I just think the chances of him somehow hurting himself trying to lay down a bunt, don't even leave the batter's box. Bunt the ball and then just stand there. Don't try to run to first base. Move the runner to third base. I understand. Again, I completely understand not wanting Luis Castillo to get hurt. I get it. I do. But the situation calls for this to happen. For this bunt to get laid down. You're in the middle of a playoff race. You don't have time to just tiptoe. That's what I'm looking for.
Sure.
The word that YouTube likes, I'm looking for. To tiptoe around in the middle of this playoff race when you're losing ground every single day to the Houston Astros. No, get out there and play baseball no matter what it takes. Who cares? And he should have bunted the ball. Could he have gotten hurt? Sure. But you lose the baseball game. Would you have won had he bunted that ball? Maybe at Sparks Rally. Who knows? Probably not. But nonetheless, this is the stuff like that. Like you said, it perfectly encapsulates this offense right now. We talked about Mitch Garver getting hurt, which, I mean, he's been swinging a relatively okay bat recently here and there. He's kind of slumped a little bit recently. This baseball team, like we said in the last podcast, Joe, is a dead raccoon. It is roadkill on the side of the road currently. That is the effort they're bringing to the field every single day. That is how they're playing. That is what every day people are paying a ton of money to go watch this team play at T-Mobile Park, and the Mariners are not giving anything back. It feels like a million years ago that Luke Raley bunted that ball against the White Sox and was safe at first base, slamming his hands together, scoring the tying run. Feels like forever ago.
It feels like a completely different baseball team.
Think about how hyped up the fans were, how hyped up the team was. I haven't seen that in this team in the last 2 weeks. And it could just switch. It could switch like that. And they could be right back to it. But right now it's not there.
And that's part of the problem, is that there does not seem to be this that kill switch that can stay on. If they can turn off that intensity so quick and then turn it back on, no, you need to keep the foot on the gas pedal. There's a stat graphic at the beginning of the game today. It was the last 6 games. They're batting $181. I looked at it for the last 12 games, so going back all the way to the Guardians series, because we are 4-8 the last 12. We have lost the last 4 series. The Mariners are batting .203, .286, with a .353 slugging, a .639 OPS as a team. That includes Game 1 against the Guardians, where they had an OPS over 1,000, and also the game against the Marlins, where they had an OPS of .935. Everything else is 600 and below. The lowest point is a 103 batting average with a .334 OPS in that second game against the Guardians. There are, sure, relative highs, I guess, if you want to call them that, but they are so unbelievably inconsistent that these players that you're rolling out there every single day as everyday players, some of them out of these last 12 games have probably gone 0 for 4 with multiple strikeouts at least 3 or 4 times, where you cannot have that when you're trying to win these games. That's just simply not a playable offense. They have to add in some way, or as a lot of it's a conversation that happens a lot, I think, during the deadline. Of we know kind of where the Mariners have stood as far as how much they want to buy, and it's the conversation of X player who is underperforming could be the biggest trade deadline acquisition you could get this season. If Julio Rodriguez somehow turns into a 5-win player in the second half, bigger than any player you can get in the trade market. If J.P. Crawford somehow turns it back on, if Cal somehow turns it back on and gets to the regular playing that we've seen in 2022 and 2023, albeit, sure, there were gaps in there for all 3 of them in that time span, but all 3 of them are having a gap simultaneously. Julio, his last 10 games has just been horrendous. You have not seen anything out of him. Sure, the defense has been good. Marlins series, he was popping off out there in center, making plays left and right. But does that score you any runs? No.
You know who else can do that? Victor Robles.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't know. It just, they suck. This team sucks right now. They're bad. And with the deadline coming up, Joe, I had someone ask me this earlier today. At the All-Star break, so that's what were we probably 8-9 games away. Are the Mariners still in first place? What do you say?
We've got 3 against the Orioles, 3 against Toronto, 2 against the Padres, 3 something against the Angels.
Mm-hmm.
Still in first place. I say by the skin of their teeth. I think within a game or 2. Sure, the Astros are 3.5 back as it stands right now. Yeah, they're on fire, and the Mariners are reeling, and it's just the perfect storm for the Mariners to lose the division lead. The pitching for the Mariners has been their crutch. What they have won on so often throughout this year. Looking at just some of the relievers over the last 12 games, Voth a 5.4 ERA, Thornton a 6.43, Mike Baumann 10.38.
The Sun.
the sun. Like Stanek, 284, great. Would have been 0 except for the final game today. Munoz, a 225. Saucedo, a 245. Like, there are guys that have been coming out of the bullpen that have been great. Some of the blame then has you look at it and like, okay, where are they out of these games at? It goes back to the starting pitching. Luis Castillo, a 7.04 ERA in 3 starts over those last 12 games. So out of that turn in the rotation there. Bryce Miller, a 6.14 ERA. Kirby and Gilbert, a 1.29 for Gilbert, a 2.08 for Kirby. They are holding their own. There are certain pitchers that are just not giving the Mariners a chance to win, but it also just goes straight back to that offense. It's like, who can they go out and try and get to fix whatever gaps they have and hopefully hold on to that lead in the American League West? It's down to 3.5 games. Sure, you hold a tiebreaker over the Astros as it stands right now, but I'm not so certain that tiebreaker can matter if the Mariners are continuously putting up 3 runs a game. You have to be, what, I think was it Jay Kuda posted that the Mariners have the worst batting average in all of baseball? Mm-hmm. You have to fix it. There has to be something to be done. And until that point, how can you trust this offense night in and night out to go out and give your pitchers run support to win games, especially when you're the Orioles are coming into town, the best team in the American League, after sure they got rinsed in the final game against the Rangers, but they're winners of a lot of their last games, and they have overtaken first place in the American League East over the Yankees. Sure, the Yankees are reeling because they don't have a hitter on that team besides Aaron Judge, but at least they have Aaron frickin' Judge, who's got 30 home runs on the year already. I think he's got more home runs than the Mariners starting lineup. It's like close. It's gotta be close. Yeah. Right? That's a bit egregious, but it's close.
Especially if Garver's not in there. Yeah.
Put in Sebi, all right? Sebi's putting up a nice 1 or 2 for us. But regardless, like, the Mariners have a tough road ahead of them to hold on to that lead. I hope that they can do it. And they're playing at home, so I feel better about it. But it is the Orioles.
Yeah, so I saw somebody tweet, and again, batting average is not everything. The Mariners have a worse batting average right now than the 2011 Mariners that went 67 and 95 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Worse average than that. Everything comes back to this offense. Everything, all row. It's like Rome, baby. Rome wasn't built in a day. This offense wasn't built in 9 years. I just made so many Dipoto and Hollander haters happy for saying that. But it's like today. there's so many things with this offense should work. Like, if these guys all just play to their career norms, the Mariners have one of the best teams in baseball. And it just isn't happening for whatever reason. And, you know, you can blame it on coaching. You can blame it on philosophy. You can blame it on park factors. It doesn't matter.
It on the
You can't alcohol.
You probably shouldn't. That would be a bad thing.
Yeah, that'd be a bad thing. Yeah, that'd be rough. But I don't know. It's like, can adding a player or 2 or 3 or 70 at the deadline, like, does that make this team offense better? Sure. But it has to be a combination of both adding a bat. Because, I mean, we found out today through the yapper, John Morosi, that the Mariners have already been pretty aggressive in looking for help with an everyday bat and with relief help. We've talked about it before on here, is that a lot of teams just aren't selling yet. Everyone's like, even me, you need to go out and make a trade right now. Unfortunately, that trade just might not be there. Like, there are teams like Luis Robert. The White Sox are going to hold out until they get the very best very best package if they trade him at all. They're going to hold out. And we heard recently that Cody Bellinger might go on the trade block. That's a guy that makes a hell of a lot of sense for the Mariners.
Yeah.
Like, but what would it cost to get him? Who knows? Obviously, Bellinger himself doesn't fix this lineup. The thing that scares me the most, Joe, is that the Mariners continue to play poorly. And because of that, this front office and ownership do not go out and add the players they need to. Because they say, well, maybe they're regressing to what they actually have been this whole time. Maybe they weren't as good of a baseball team as and they probably weren't as good of a baseball team as they started out, but they're also not this bad.
No, definitely not. That's the hard part, is like, you look at this team on paper and like how they've won baseball games. They've won one of the best records in baseball in 1-run games. They've won games in extra innings. they're playing close baseball games similar to how 2021 and 2022 won games, right? Yes, you knew that pitching was going to take this team as far as it can go. It's when the pitching falls short and gives up too many runs, the offense can't then make the comeback. 5 runs should not be an insurmountable lead, but I have no faith with the Mariners scoring more than 4 any given night, given how this lineup looks. The way that you make this team a better winning, just in general, a better baseball team is ensuring that if the pitching doesn't have it necessarily on a given night, that team can go out and score 5+. And you have to add to the lineup. There's obvious holes. Like the fact that Luke Raley, no slouch to him. He's got every bit of whatever, the thing that, like, the je ne sais quoi, the thing that, like, is missing from players, that little something, the intangibles of him in the post game today saying, oh, like, that's on me for not coming up in the clutch in the first inning at bat, striking out on 3 pitches with runners in scoring position. Our timely hitting with runners in scoring position has been atrocious. Him owning up to that at bat after he then proceeded to have 3 consecutive hits, finishes his day 3 for 5, battled out like a 12 pitch at bat to give the Mariners a tying run on base or at the plate, maybe whenever that was. I can't remember. It was a long at bat, singled out to left field. Insane battle there. And he's owning up to his mistake in the first inning. You need more of that accountability up and down the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he is your guy that, like, people are like, yeah, Luke Raley's like the best hitter on the team right now. Not to say any slack towards him, but when you've got guys like Julio Rodriguez, who have been a 5-6 win player in his first 2 years, you had J.P. Crawford, who led the team in WRC plus last year after a phenomenal year. Like, there are guys that should be ahead of him, but they're just not right now. So you have to go out and add to fill in those gaps.
And those guys definitely know they're struggling. I mean, we saw that Julio had his hitting coach out, like, doing extra work and whatnot, trying to get himself right. And it's not that these guys don't care, obviously, and we're not saying that. Mm-hmm. But when Luke Raley is what every player, every hitter on this team should want to be right now. And in terms of what we have seen around the league, for example, things that I have noticed, especially in the past week or so, it was Stroman yelling at Gleyber Torres to, like, get his head in the game. I don't remember the exact scenario or what have you.
Throw the effing ball harder.
Yeah, like, basically, let's go. Come on, show some integrity or whatnot. Same thing happened with Justin Steele, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep, and the Cubs. And it's like, do I think that needs to happen with this team? Not necessarily. Because obviously clubhouse chemistry is important, and, like, you do something like that and it's really awkward in that clubhouse. That's how we have the D. Gordon and Gene Segura situation all over again. That fight in the clubhouse. Like, but at the same time, somebody needs to get under these guys' asses and say, let's go. Figure this thing out. And I mean, we're losing ground here. We built up all this ground. I've said it before and I'll say it again. That is the one thing that we have that we can look at and say, okay, the Mariners built up all of this ground on the Astros so they can sustain themselves through a period like this. Imagine, if you will, the Mariners have been playing like they were last year, 500 ball up to this point, and then this happened. It's over.
Yeah.
You're selling at the deadline. Everybody's gone. Because of how they've played up to this point, going into a series against the Orioles, Joe, they have the opportunity to make their way into the All-Star break in an okay spot. But it all starts with the first game against the Orioles.
Yeah, you have to come out and play with a bit more fire. It's a weird Orioles situation, I think, given the recent history of who they played in the AL West. They played the Astros in Houston, got swept. They played Texas in Baltimore, won 2 out of 3. The final game was a big wash, whatever. Like, the Mariners have played well against the Astros and the Rangers this year. We went 1-2 in Baltimore. What does that mean? Does that mean we're going 2-1 in July by some weird math logic pattern? No, because you have to play the game in front of you. And the Orioles, Colton, second best offensive team in baseball. Maybe tied for first. It is they're second behind the Dodgers in the listing, but they've got the same WRC plus of 121. Pitching, as far as pitching is concerned, They've got a starting or their entire pitching ERA is 3.45, second or third best in all of baseball. Mariners are sixth at a 3.58. The Orioles have the second best starting pitching ERA. They're like top 10 in bullpen. Like, this is a good baseball team. They've got Gunnar Henderson, who's just going bananas this year. Can't stop, won't stop Gunnar Henderson. The Mariners offense continues to struggle. We are one place ahead of the Oakland Athletics as far as WRC plus is concerned in all of baseball. The Mariners are at 94, sitting at 21st. You just have to go out there and show this better team that, like, you can play against them. The Mariners have this entire year against teams in the AL above 500 not played well. Not played well against them. You have to go out there and flip the script. It starts against Grayson Rodriguez. That's the only officially announced Orioles probable. Do I like our chances? He got activated off the injured list last time and struck out, 10 against us the first time we faced him. Do I love our chances? Not really. No, not really. Because this is a good baseball team. You're going to go up against, this is a true test, especially coming off 4 consecutive series losses. This is about as big of a test you can get to start July. You face off against Grayson Rodriguez, sure. Opposite him, George Kirby. Been pitching very well the last couple times out. I mentioned a 2.09 ERA through those last 12 games. He made 3 starts in those. If there's a guy that can go toe-to-toe with Grayson Rodriguez, who owned us last time, it's George Kirby. He can go out there in T-Mobile and hopefully keep the Orioles at bay. But there's a lot of... Oh, I bumped my mic. Hopefully it doesn't sound scratchy. Am I scratchy?
No.
Fantastic. There's a lot of star power on this team. Gunnar, Adley, Anthony Santander, I think, hit 13 home runs in the month of June alone. That team hit 60 home runs last month, Colton.
What?
I'm not kidding.
Oh my God, the Mariners are so screwed.
Let me fact check Anthony Santander really quick, but I'm not kidding. I'm pretty sure he hit 13 home runs in June.
I blame Camden Yards.
Is that what it is?
It's a hitter's paradise.
The Mariners definitely have their work cut out for them, and
yeah,
it's gonna be a tough one on Tuesday.
The Mariners have lost 4 straight games, or 4 straight series. And this team, the Orioles, are better than any of those teams that they lost a series to.
Yes.
And it's not particularly close. So, yeah, going into game 2 with Logan Gilbert on the mound against possibly Corbin Burns.
Yeah, coming off the paternity list.
We assume, we hope that Gilbert wins AL Pitcher of the Month. Sick. Put some makeup on the pig of the end of June for me, please. Thank you. Logan probably has secured a spot in the All-Star game, in my opinion. Should have, anyway. I think that this is his second to last start, I believe, before the All-Star break in general. Yeah, against Corbin Burns, I'm not confident at all.
Yeah, I mean,
at all.
You're going up against a previous Cy Young winner and almost perennial Cy Young contender in Corbin Burns. The Orioles went out and got him for a reason. They needed an ace at the front of that staff. They got it with Corbin Burns, and he's been pitching like it this year. It was correct. Santander hit 13 home runs in June. I don't know if he hit one in the final game against Texas, the day that we're recording this, but yeah, 13. So the offense is on fire for Baltimore. If there's a guy on this Mariners pitch in the starting rotation that can shut him down, though, similar to George Kirby, Gilbert's been pitching better than Kirby. Gilbert's been pitching better than Kirby all year. Gilbert has been the Mariners' best starting pitcher, hands down. You mentioned deserving of an all-star nod. He's definitely pitched his way into it. Maybe June pitcher of the month. Again, just some sort of morale boost heading into the July 4th series here. Opposite Corbin Burns, I think anytime you're going up against a guy like Corbin Burns, though, it's hard. And I have to imagine that maybe the Orioles feel a similar way about Logan Gilbert, right? Maybe not as much, but given
they actually trust their offense.
Yeah, right. That's the huge difference between these two teams is there's one that has a, dare I say, major league level offense versus a team that is below major league level. That's not ridiculous to say. They are legitimately below league average. How do they combat that? You're in T-Mobile. The Mariners as a whole on the year are 28-14 at home. You gotta hope that some of that T-Mobile Park magic is with you in one of these first 2 games. The third game, it might be your best chance because the Orioles pitching, it's kind of up in the air. It is Bryce Miller on the mound, though, and he's been up and down, very hit or miss. His last time out against the Twins was okay, like you said at the beginning of this, but definitely not quite on the same trust level as George Kirby and Logan Gilbert, though.
Yeah, Bryce is a guy who, when he's good, he's good. But it's just what
when
I
he's
know.
Good, he's good. When you score more runs than the other team, you win.
You win. Sources confirm, actually, yeah. If he can command his fastball at the top of the zone against this lineup, I do have faith that he will be able to handle them. Okay. Not like, I don't think he's going to go out there and throw a perfecto. You know what I mean? But I mean, we saw him handle the Braves lineup, and obviously the Braves were a different team at the time that he faced them compared to what we expect them to be at the end of the year. And obviously, right now, the Orioles offense is much better than the Braves offense. And so, when it comes to this last game, I think this whole series, Joe, we saw it with the Twin series. We're going to need a lot more of it, though. It's just chaos ball. Chaos ball has to reign supreme in this series for the Mariners to not get swept. Yeah. Just don't get swept.
Avoid the sweep. That is definitely the mantra against a team like the Orioles. The Game 3 starter, I said it's kind of up in the air. It's either Dean Kramer, who has been on the injured list since the end of May, has finished 3 rehab starts with the AAA Norfolk Tides, but his last time out was not good. So, depending on how maybe a bullpen looks, he might start in Game 3. The other option for them is Albert Suarez, who's filled in very well for this Orioles pitching staff. It's a situation where they're getting guys to kind of step up. Maybe it's some sort of like the camaraderie of the team is just bringing everybody together, and everyone's having a superb year, similar to maybe how the Rangers offense was last year. Like everything was kind of clicking on all cylinders all at the right time. That kind of feels like what the Orioles got going on for them right now. They took over first place against the Yankees. I don't know if that's actually accurate anymore after Sunday's results. They might be, I think if this is right, they're a half game. But I don't think the Texas game has finished. So they'll probably be tied with the Yankees. Regardless of that, it's weird to say this is like a David and Goliath situation as the Mariners are winning the American League West. They're 8 games over 500. But this feels almost like an insurmountable opponent. They feel like they're in heavyweight and we're in like featherweight. Like it does not
you and I are.
We are definitely not. Sorry, I shouldn't say we. Like we're punching up to our opponent in this one because they're just that much better. And how do the Mariners go out and salvage a game? Maybe take this series. It relies on their pitching. They have to go out there and just shove. Keep the Orioles to 2 to 3 runs in 2 of the 3 games. That gives you the best opportunity to get back on the right track. Because if you continue to skid, just reel, the Astros are playing the Blue Jays. They just split with the Yankees, sure. But the Blue Jays are in last place in the East. This is a great opportunity for the Astros. They're probably looking at it being like, hey, we could finish this series against the Blue Jays maybe a half game out of first place. And that's terrifying given what the Mariners have shown against weaker opponents than the Orioles the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be tough, man. It's going to be we're going to be trying to enjoy our 4th of July, and in the back of our head, we're just going to see John Stanton's face. And it's just going to haunt my dreams.
I'm going to turn around and throw an elbow or something.
Yeah, accidentally hit my mom in the face like the 4th of July party. Sorry, Mom. She's much shorter than John Stanton. Anyway, that's going to do it for us from episode 100 of the Hit It Here podcast presented by Bet Online. Is that what I normally say? Presented by Bet Online? Oh, yeah. Okay. It just felt weird.
That is right, Colton. And it's because it's the Colton Swanson episode. It's your episode, buddy. You did it too. We did it, Joe, or whatever. That's what you should have said.
We did it, Joe. We appreciate you guys watching episode 100, and go Mariners.